a high level, like before I started Springboard, I was kind of hopping around in a couple of industries and a couple of jobs. I did a bit of product management in industrials, a bit of economic consulting. And at the time that I was starting Springboard, I was actually working for a trade association that represents manufacturing in Washington, D.C. And I didn't really like that job so much, frankly. I think the industry was interesting, but trade associations are sort of these slow-moving, bears in terms of as far as organizations go, unfortunately. I wanted to really see what else was out there. And so I got in touch with Springboard, actually. You guys had some really powerful SEO at that time, so I got a Facebook ad for it, which was very well placed. And I decided to take the leap, and my company at the time was willing to sponsor the tuition for me and two other people. So it was great to be able to do the program with a group of people. It all went really well. I picked up a lot of skills in a very short amount of time and had the context from an industry mentor to supplement that with real world experience. So it wasn't just kind of like a master's program or some of these other boot camps where you just do independent work by yourself, heads down. I was also able to get a lot of context about what it was like being a data scientist and what it actually took to be a data scientist from my mentor, Eric. So it was really great, and it actually resulted in me being able to get a job even before I finished the program from a company called IHS Markit as a data analyst. And, I credit just the approach that Springboard had, which was to, get in there real quick, get projects under my belt, build a solid foundation and also a portfolio that I could show off to employers as to why I was able to get that job even before I finished. And I worked there for about 2 years, and it worked out actually really well. I really enjoyed the job, the team, and everything. At that time, I'd actually decided to become a mentor for Springboard as well, after I got some experience under my belt. One of the things that taught me is that in technology, things are very fluid and they change very quickly. In that organization, other organizations, they move fast, and sometimes moving fast means you aren't afraid to make drastic personnel changes. And I think in that sort of environment, you have to really be agile in terms of your expectations and also not get too comfortable. And I think that's really what Springboard is all about. It's about teaching you the skills to be able to have that agility to not just do one thing for a long time, but be well-versed in a lot of things. And so you can jump around from company to company if one of them doesn't work out. And so instead of, like a master's program, which forces you to focus on one particular thesis topic for all 2 years or 3 years, Springboard is all about getting you a lot of experience so that you can have a variety of projects from NLP to signal processing to machine learning under your belt so that you're not pigeonholed in any one place for too long. Everything was smooth sailing until 2 years after I joined, the chief data scientist switched. Basically, we hired a new chief data scientist in London, and he decided to move the entire team over there, which meant that I no longer had a job being in DC. And at that time, I was pretty panicked just because I really didn't know what to expect in terms of the job market at that point. But thanks to sort of the interviewing skills that I honed with Eric, my mentor, and also the real world context that he was able to provide and the curriculum was able to provide with what people were actually looking for in data scientists. It's not just the highest accuracy in your model, it's also being able to think strategically about business problems and view everything in the context of the business challenges. I was able to get not one, but 3 offers, fortunately. So I was honored to pick between 3 companies, Wayfair, the University of Michigan, and MachineMetrics, where I am now. And I decided to go with the riskiest option because why not? So I joined MachineMetrics, which was this pre-Series A 20-person startup in middle of nowhere, Northampton, Massachusetts, about an hour and a half outside of Boston. Decided to go all in on it, moved there, everything. I didn't know anyone, but I figured I'd meet people. And that has gone above and beyond all of my expectations. I was able to get in there, add value quickly, build products that we were able to ship to customers within the first couple of months that I was there, using skills that I'd obtained at Springboard, like looking across millions and billions of rows of SQL databases, being able to really make a practical impact, which is, I think, what the curriculum really focuses on. It wasn't so much about theoretically getting 1% more accuracy, but it was just about being able to ship things out there and get feedback quickly and iterate quickly off of that too. And after about a year of being there in 2019, we raised the Series A, thanks to the contributions that I had made, and feel very fortunate for this. They promoted me to lead data scientist, so I was leading a small team of an intern and another full-time person, and we were able to basically go on all sorts of data adventures, looking at what else we could do for the organization to add value. We basically were able to come up with a product that was extremely high margin. Basically, at that time, we'd only done descriptive analytics before I came on, but now I was sort of charged with doing predictive analytics, which in the world of machining and manufacturing means predicting what machines are going to do before they actually do it, and either stopping them before something catastrophic happens or making small offsets or things like that. So obviously that was a whole paradigm shift for the company to not just read data off machines, but to actuate back to them. That actually helped us get our Series B as well. So earlier this year, we closed our Series B round. They were able to promote me to director of data science, and now I'm able to lead a large team of 5 data scientists. I'm honored to be able to do that and to sort of continue to move things forward. And really, I credit this meteoric sort of career trajectory to me getting started with Springboard a couple of years ago. And I think that this would have taken much longer if I went through like a formal master's program or a PhD program. It just would have taken many more years to, fully complete all of those often onerous bureaucratic requirements versus just learning things really quickly, learning what you actually need to know and getting down on the ground and actually being able to create value for customers, which is what it's all about. IoT is a really interesting field, especially industrial IoT. We're really starting to see data science and machine learning not just influence things in the digital sphere. So it's not just about showing you the right ad or giving you the right movie recommendation on Netflix anymore. It's actually creeping into our physical world. So these are cyber physical systems that we deal with. IoT and industrial IoT is all about that intersection of digital and physical. So on a daily basis, I'm talking to customers about what their actual physical challenges are with machining specifically. So are they creating too many scrap parts? Are their tools breaking? Do their machines need to be stopped at a certain time, but they just don't have enough personnel to stop them? So industrial IoT and my day-to-day is really all about finding these cyber physical challenges and solving them with the power of big data and algorithms applied to that. A third of the time, I'd say I'm talking to customers, either external customers like machine shops that we have, or internal customers like other groups in the company that are interested in our work. A third of the time, I'm in the code itself, so programming in R, Python, PySpark in order to actually build tools to solve their problems. And a third of the time is just general like coordination, leadership, product management sort of stuff, where I'm actually coordinating internally with my team and other teams to get this thing built and deployed on our edge devices so that they can actually stop machines in the field and really be able to make an impact. So it's a really interesting mix of things, and it really requires that you sort of have a generalist mindset where you're not just a coder, or you're not just a salesman, or you're not just a product manager. You really have to be all 3 or 4 or 5 roles at the same time. It's that sort of agility that I think the Springboard curriculum kind of like emphasizes. And I think it's going to come more into vogue as we move further and further along with edge computing and with capabilities in data science. You're going to see just your day-to-day be influenced more and more by these more advanced analytical capabilities. And, factory floors, they've sort of been mired in the 20th century for a long time. They run basically the same as they did in the 60s and the 70s. Especially these small mom and pop shops, they haven't had any reason to change. And now all of a sudden you can see these trillions of data points that we pull and be able to not just have a person stand next to the machine and babysit it all the time, but you can actually do that with data itself. So you can replicate the ear of the operator, you can replicate someone standing and staring at the machine just by looking at these data points and looking at patterns to them. It's really cool to actually see our work manifest in a physical sense. It's really cool to see that we can actually stop machines thousands of miles away from our living room and do that in an accurate way. I'm actually going to start even before the interview, which I think applying to jobs, there's a certain technique to that that's also really important. All three of the jobs that I ended up getting offers for came from essentially my network, and they were somehow connected to me. So for Wayfair, they were specifically recruiting for people from my company. So they reached out to me actually at my work email and asked if I wanted to interview. Getting yourself in that position where you're at a name brand company already really helps. That really helps you get a leg up if you just know somebody. Same thing with MachineMetrics. My mentor at my previous company, they knew the co-founders, and that helped getting an introduction to the co-founders. And I think the CEO called me and he was like, "Hey, I'm downtown, can you meet me?" And just randomly I was able to, so hopping down there in my sweatpants and just immediately being responsive and being able to meet him helped a lot. So being able to differentiate yourself in any way from hundreds or thousands of other applicants is really key. So find your hook. If there's someone if the industry you're in, your company is well regarded in, if you have a geographic advantage somehow, so people close to urban centers like Boston or San Francisco often have this, go to networking events, meet as many people as possible, set yourself up well for that first interview. And the interviews themselves, there are certain things that you need to keep in mind for them, but really it's all about staying relaxed, I would actually say, and making sure that you're acting like yourself. Oftentimes, I know when I'm recruiting for positions, I know that the technical stuff is not the hard thing to teach, really. Anyone can really pick up Python or R within a couple of months, especially with all the tools out to learn and to all the resources on Stack Overflow. It's more about if you're a person that they want to work with. That's, I think, the most important thing during interviews. It just helps to sort of keep that in the back of your head that most people, if there's hundreds of people applying and there's dozens of people interviewing, most likely the technical knowledge is actually going to be sort of commodified at that point. So, being able to stay relaxed, being able to talk like a human. So about your motivation for joining and being authentic and genuine in your speech about what it is about that job attracts you to it. Yeah, so that was a really great experience. I thought it was important to come back and sort of be able to give my perspective, both as a previous student and as a current data scientist. And I think it was really unique to be able to do that and to sort of present both sides of the coin and to show current students that people actually do finish the program and get meaningful data science jobs. Being there and saying that, I came out of the program and that was one of the, I'm sort of one of the results of it, served as a pretty powerful motivator for a lot of the people that I was mentoring. It wasn't just ethereal, or it wasn't just, this brass ring that was completely out of reach anymore. It was, something that they could see live in the flesh at that point. Well, it certainly was very scary moving to a small town in Massachusetts, not knowing anyone, and this 20-person startup that could go bust at any time. In fact, the first couple of months I was there, I stayed in an Airbnb because I was convinced that the startup wouldn't actually last very long. But 3.5 years later, we're 15 times that valuation and still here. It's just about like really being confident in yourself and your own abilities. So like knowing that you have the wherewithal to be an effective contributor is important. Keeping in mind that you were able to complete Springboard for a reason, you were able to get the job for a reason. They didn't just hire you out of nowhere. Like getting rid of that imposter syndrome is hard, but it's essential to actually being able to comport yourself as an effective data scientist, especially if there's sort of like a strong people aspect to it. I think it's important for every student and every person who graduates from the program to hold it in their heads that not everyone can do this and complete the program. If you do, it means that you're worthy of a data science job and you could contribute to organizations. You can help determine when machines should stop and help people save thousands of dollars and scrap parts. Like your work is actually going to make a difference in this world for the better. And I think that's also a powerful motivator to, assuage some of that fear that comes with the first data science or second data science job. Being the first data scientist there were no data science pipelines established. So all the code was written from scratch, essentially. They had big databases for me to play with, Postgres and AWS databases, S3 databases. But past that, it's like, that is your oyster and you have to really get into it to figure out how to derive value from it. And so having this big open field to play with is really fun, but also really scary at the same time. So important skills for that were things like the ability to really hold up well to uncertainty and to really keep an open mind as to what holes the data may have, and just have this sort of general skepticism about what people are telling you about the data. So coming in as like an independently minded practitioner was really important as that like first data scientist. Now that the team has really been built out over these last 3.5 years, it's more about really keeping everything together. So at the point of being a director, you're more of the glue of the team. So I still spend about a third of my time in the code, but mostly it's about making sure that everyone is motivated, on board with the mission, making sure that the organization, that the data science organization holds standing in the overall organization by continuing to prove value. It's a lot of these soft skills now versus before, which was like more like hard, coding skills and just being able to like get value out of reams and reams of data that no one's ever really looked at before. So Corey actually just cold applied, and I found out later that he was part of Springboard because I think he shared with me his GitHub and there were some projects there. I know like what you have to do in order to graduate from Springboard, and I know like the real world mentorship is especially important. At this point, I've referred a couple people in, and from what I can tell, they've all gotten meaningful data scientist jobs in various industries, and that's not easy. You don't even see that from like top master's programs really at good schools. Like it seems like Springboard is really focused on placement and being able to actually get people to continue their learning journey through their job. And I value that a lot more than, understanding 100% the theory of data science and statistics, I would say. Bar none, it was probably the mentorship, the one-on-one mentorship. So Eric Reinerson, who was the first data scientist at Instacart, was actually my mentor. Yeah, he really made it a very interesting experience because I could talk to him about what it was like being the first data scientist at Instacart and not just, be staring at code all day. He told me about like what the process was for getting a job there, how he, worked in analytics before, but thought that, SaaS tech companies were going to be the next big thing. And so that really influenced my decision to actually join MachineMetrics, because he had an inside view already about what industries were about to explode. And so for me, it wasn't, academia, it wasn't going to be University of Michigan. Wayfair was already pretty established, and MachineMetrics, this tiny SaaS company, I joined, and I was influenced by his advice as well, which was to join something that was in this burgeoning industry that not many people had heard of at the time. One of the things that Springboard does well is definitely show how many areas of data science there are and give you the full technical picture. I would also advise that data science isn't about the technical problems 100% of the time. I'd say it's about 50-50. So you're hired as a data scientist and paid that six-figure salary because you're supposed to be making six-figure, like multiples of your salary worth of business impacts. That's why you're being hired. And I think thinking about problems in the sense of what sort of value they're going to create, either in terms of cost savings, so pushing costs down, or value add, which is creating new products that you can charge money for, is a really helpful concept to be thinking of things in the frame of, which is really that as a data scientist, you're there to add business value. And in that respect, you should learn as much as you can about that business and about that industry and about their business model. And it's not all about getting that last 1% out of your machine learning model. It's more about just thinking outside the box, where other people don't have these skill sets and don't see these billions of rows of data. You do. What's your unique perspective on how that can add value to the company? That is a much more helpful mindset, I think, than squeezing the last couple percent of accuracy out of the Kaggle model or something like that. That's really one aspect that I think a lot of new data scientists can do better on, frankly.